Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back, and thank you for supporting me. I'm Coretta. In today's video, I will be showing how to print larger images for sublimation with your Epson Ecotank 2720 or any small format printer using Silhouette Studios. Want to see how I do it? Let's get started. For this project, I will be using a sublimation paper that I purchased from Amazon, butcher paper that I purchased from Amazon, a Cricut 100% polyester t-shirt that I purchased from Michaels. I have heat tape, regular brown heat tape that I purchased from Amazon, and I have Cricut heat tape that I purchased from Amazon as well. I have a lint roller, I have an X-Acto knife, I have a measuring tape, and I have a ruler. I will have a link to the items in the description box below. First, we will need to make sure that the page is set up for 8.5 by 11 printing. To do this, we will go to the toolbar on the right and select the first icon, which is the page setup panel. We will select the page setup and we will make sure it's on letter, which is 8.5 by 11. We're going to make sure the orientation is on portrait. And then we're going to make sure the cutting mat says none. And on the print and cut borders, we are going to select the show print borders so that we can see where we're going to print. Next, I am going to go to the print preferences to make sure my print settings match. And to make sure that the print settings match, I'm going to go to the top left and go to File. I'm going to select Print Page Setup. And here you want to make sure that your paper size is letter and your orientation is on portrait. And then after that is done, you'll select OK. So now I'm ready to prepare my image for printing. Next, I will add my sublimation image to the canvas. To add the image to the canvas, I will go to File, Merge. I'm going to browse to where my image is located, and I'm going to select the image and then select OK. Now I have my sublimation image on the canvas, and I purchased this image from Etsy at Do Dream On, and I will put the link in the description box below of the image. So now the next thing I want to do is I want to size my image to fit my shirt. My shirt is a large, so I'm going to make my image 10 inches wide by 12.5 inches in height. So I'm going to change my width to 10 inches, and I'm going to hit enter. And then I'm going to change my height to 12.5 inches in height and hit enter. This method of splitting the image seems to be the easiest process that I have used, especially when I was a beginner. To split the image, I am going to select the toolbar, the square on the toolbar on the left, and I'm going to select the square. I'm going to click anywhere on the canvas, and I am going to draw a square. And then I'm going to select anywhere else on the canvas to come out of the tool. Now, based on my design, I'm going to size this square to 11 inches wide by 8.5 inches in height. So I'm going to select my image, size the width to 11, hit enter, size the height to 8.5 and hit enter. And this measurements would be the same size as a piece of paper. So let me zoom out so we can see. So that's the size of the image. It's 11 width by 8.5. Next, I am going to position this square over the design where I want to split it at. And so I'm going to split it right about there. Now, that's where I want to position my first square. So after I've positioned this square, I'm going to go to the replicate panel on the right, which is the 10th icon on the right hand side. Is the 10th icon down, and I'm going to select the replicate icon. Here on the replicate icon, I'm going to make sure that my square is selected, and then I'm going to select the duplicate below. And this is going to put a square exactly below the first square. Now, while the second square that I've added is selected, I am going to move my square up 4 times using my arrow key. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is going to create a small overlap. Now, for this tutorial, I added 2 squares, but you would add as many squares as you would need to cover your image. And so here again, I've only added 2. I've overlapped the squares because overlapping the squares will make it easier to piece the design together after it is printed. After the squares are positioned, I'm going to select the image and both of the squares, and I am going to duplicate. Duplicating this for every square that was used to cover the design. Again, I used 2 squares, so I'm going to duplicate it 1 time to get 2 designs with squares. So to duplicate, I'm going to select both of the squares and the design. I'm going to right click and I'm going to select duplicate. And then I'm going to move the duplicated image out of the way to the side. So it's out of the way. And I have 2 images on the screen. Now with the first copy here, we're going to use this one as the first copy and this one as the second copy. So with the first copy, I am going to remove the bottom square. So I'm going to select the bottom square and I'm going to hit delete. And that leaves me with the top square and the bottom square. And what I'm going to do next is I am going to crop the image into the square. So to crop the image into the square, I would go to the modify panel, which is the 11th icon on your right toolbar menu. So I will select open the modify panel. I will select both the image and the square, and then I will select crop. And I'm going to do the same thing for the second copy, except I'm going to remove the top square. So I'm going to delete the top square. I'm going to select the image and the square, and I'm going to select crop. So now we have 2 pieces that we are going to print. To print, I will move each piece to the mat separately. And when I'm adding the pieces to the mat, I want to make sure that the image is fitting within the print borders, because anything outside of the print borders will not print. So once I have the image on the mat, I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Print. I'm going to select my sublimation printer. And then I want to check to make sure that my preferences are okay. So I have my sublimation printer selected. I'm going to go to Preferences. And here I have presets So I'm going to select my A-Sub 8.5 by 11 Premium Presentation Matte setting. I'm going to go to More Options, and I'm going to check my document size. I'm going to also check to make sure that my mirror image option is selected. And once I'm okay, I'm going to select OK. And then I'm going to hit print. Now, I've already printed the image out, this part of the image out, so I'm going to select cancel. And then I'm going to add my next image to the canvas. And as you can see, the image is outside of the print borders, and so this part of the image won't print. And so that I can position the image correctly on the canvas, I'm going to go to my transform panel, and I'm going to select rotate option, and then I'm going to select rotate 90 degrees. I'm going to position this on the mat where I want it, and then I am going to go to file. I'm going to go to print. I'm going to make sure my printer is selected, and I'm going to go to preferences. I'm going to select my preset. I'm going to go to more options. I'm going to check my document size, and I'm going to check my image is mirrored option, and then I'm going to hit OK, and then I'm going to hit print. And I do that every time I put an image on the mat. I want to make sure that every time I print with my preferred sublimation printer preferences. Now, I'll come back when this last image prints out. I'll come back. So here I am at my desk, and I've printed the images out. So now it's time to put them together. To put them together, I'm going to trim one of the edges so that I can fit it onto the other page and line it up. So I'm going to trim the edge of this side so that I can line them up. And to trim that side, I'm going to use a ruler and my X-Acto knife. And I'm going to move this out of the way. And then I am going to take my ruler, and I am going to position my ruler over my image so that just a little bit of the image is showing through. And position it so it's just a little bit of the image showing through. And I'm not worried about cutting off too much of the image, because when I created the image, the overlap, I created it so that I would have some overlap, which would give me some wiggle room when it came time to trimming the design. And so what I'm going to do is I have it lined up where I want it, and I'm just going to take my X-Acto knife, and I am going to trim the excess white away. Now, when you trim the excess white away, you want to make sure that there is no white on any of the color image on the color side, because if you leave any white there, when you piece your image together, there will be white on your design, and then when you press it, it'll have a white line on it. So you don't want to leave any white on it at all. So that's how you trim one side. So I'm going to trim off some of this other side as well, because we don't need all of this white here. So I'm going to trim that down as well, but not to the image. I'm just going to trim it so that I can manage layering it and it's not a whole bunch of paper left, a lot of paper in the way when I am attempting to overlap the images. So I'm just going to cut the excess white off of this, leaving a small lift there so that I'll have somewhere to lay my top side of my image. So I just trimmed away some of the white, and I left a lift of the white there so that I'll have somewhere to lay my image on, like that. So to line the image up, you would take your heat tape and you would flip the image over, and you would put heat tape on the image, lining it up on the back of the paper, putting some on the paper and some off of the paper. Like that. So as you can see, you have some tape on the paper and some tape off the paper. And here you have the part that's off the paper is exposed. And as you can see, it is exposed so that when you line it up, it's sticky and it'll hold the image in place as you're lining it up. So I'm going to now take this piece and I'm going to line it up with the bottom piece so that it'll look like one whole image. Now I'm lining it up, making sure that I line it up so that it creates one whole image, making sure that all of the lines line up as best as I can get it. And I feel like that's pretty cool. That's about where I want the image to be lined up. It's a little off over here. So let's see if we can get that to line up where we want it, like that. Let me see. Right here, you want that part to be lined up. And then you want this part up here to be lined up. And I think that's pretty good. Right there. So once you get it lined up where you want it, then you'll flip it over carefully because you don't want it to fall apart. You'll flip it over and then you'll just tape the whole back of the design. And you want to tape up the whole seam. You don't want to leave any white space on the seam. You want the whole seam taped up because you don't want any gas, any ink gas to escape from in between the image. Because if any gas leaks out from in between, then it can cause ghosting. So you want the whole thing to be taped down, the entire seam taped down. And then now we have our image. So we have our image taped down. Now we're going to I'm going to go to the heat press and we're going to press it. Okay, so here we are at my heat press. I have my heat press heated up to 400 degrees and it's set for 60 seconds. And I've already length rolled my shirt. I've pre-pressed it to get the moisture out. I have a piece of butcher paper on the bottom of the shirt, inside the shirt, and I'm going to put a piece of butcher paper on top of the image when I press it so that I don't mess up my top heat platen. So I'm going to place my butcher paper on my shirt and I'm going to press it for 60 seconds at 400 degrees. So I'm going to remove the butcher paper. And I'm going to let that cool down for a moment before I peel it, because I want to make sure that everything takes for this shirt. Okay, so the design has cooled down a little bit. And so now I'm just going to reveal the shirt. Ah, I like it. It's so cute. It's so cute. I still have on my heat gloves, so it's a little hard to maneuver here. But it's cute. What do you guys think? Isn't that cute? It's for one of my coworkers at work. She is going to love it. She is a breast cancer survivor. All right, guys. That's all for now. I hope that you were able to follow along with my process. If you like this video and would like to see more, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and consider subscribing to my channel. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be notified every time I upload a video. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I will respond back. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.